Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marie, and today's video is all about the crazy week that I had. Some good, some bad, but the good totally outweighs the bad. So in the last video I mentioned that I have gestational diabetes, and on Monday I went to visit with the nurse and I picked up the little test kit and she showed me how to use it. And one of the cool things is this little tester connects to an app on my phone that gives the doctor my information, and I still have to write it down on a piece of paper in case for some reason the app and the machine fail. I still have a written list of what my blood sugars have been, but it's kind of cool. They were like, oh, you're supposed to log into the app on your phone before you do the test, and I forgot a couple times, and then it notifies my phone, so I get a message. It's not a text, but it's like a notification on my phone. It's like, oh yeah, we got your blood sugar. I'm like, cool. So I'm not even worried like if I forget to do that. It just sends it already. And then if it didn't, when I log into the app and the machine is near it, it will send it automatically. So that's kind of cool. It didn't work so well in the office when it was there. It was like, didn't want to connect. And when it finally did, I ended up pressing something and I unregistered from their system, and then it wouldn't allow me to use it again. And so I had to email the midwife, because the nurse tried to resend me the invitation and it wasn't working. And then I called the 800 number because they have like, you know, some IT people that will help you. And they're like, well, we can see that you're registered and it's working. I'm like, yeah, but it's not, because I accidentally unregistered. And so I messaged the midwife again. And I was like, yeah, they said you have to send me the thing. And when she sent me the email, and I logged into the app, it automatically was like, oh, you want to register, accept. And I was like, yes. And I was very careful with this time. And then now it's all working good. But that didn't happen until like Wednesday afternoon. So Monday and Tuesday, and then eventually all of the information uploaded to the app. But Monday and Tuesday was like, I'm writing it down. I'm like, oh, I have to keep track. But it was just kind of weird. It was like a weird glitch. And the nurse said a lot of people have trouble logging in at that building. Like, my phone doesn't like to work there. And even when you connect to their Wi-Fi, it's still really spotty in the building. So when I got home, it's been fine here. So anyways, on to Tuesday. So Tuesday I went and met with a specialist. I had to go all the way to Atlanta, and it was in the afternoon, but it took me 15 minutes to park and get in the building. It was kind of crazy because they have this huge parking structure, and I'm the kind of person, I will go to the very top and just park kind of close to the door and not look for a spot inside, because it's kind of faster than driving slowly through and like trying to fit into a little tiny spot somewhere. I'm just like, let me go where nobody else is parking and just get in and out. But I was behind one of those cars that was like, I need the very first spot I can find. I'm like, just get out of my way. And I couldn't go around because it's a parking structure and it's small. So that took a while. And then when I got getting out of the parking structure into the building was not easy either, because they have like a walkway they want you to go on and not walk across underneath where all the traffic coming in is at. And it's downtown Atlanta, so it's a pretty busy hospital. And it was just like, where am I going? I'm wandering around and I'm following signs, and they were contradictory. So one of them was like, go this way, and I did. I'm like, I'm back in the parking garage and I don't see anywhere to go. So then I went back, and it's like I saw another sign pointing the other direction. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go there. It was weird. But I finally got in the building, and then I didn't even find the right elevator. Apparently they have 2 sets of elevators, and I took the first set and it only went to the 4th floor. And I was just like, this is as high as it goes. Is there another elevator? And somebody that worked there was like, no, you have to go downstairs to where you were and keep going and then turn left. And you'll find another set of elevators that goes up to the top. I'm like, okay, because I had to go to the 15th floor. So I was a little late to my appointment, like 10 minutes, because it just, navigating that hospital was kind of a mess. And then they're also screening you as you go in as well and making sure you have a reason to be there, which is fine. It was a lot. It was like a lot of walking, and my knee was killing me. And by the time I got to the appointment, I was just like, I just want to lay down, which I got to do because I did they did a really long ultrasound. So I went in and I started the ultrasound, and they did 2 different ones. They did the vaginal one and the external one. And they started out with the external one, which I appreciated because it's like, kind of tired of everybody looking at my hoo-ha. Like, is it necessary? It's like everybody gets to look there. And it's a place that usually you only select a few people to look at it. It's not like, hi, I'm here. So the technician started and I got to see the baby, and it was so cute. When she first found the baby, you could see it was from the side and you see the little legs kicking. I was like, oh, it's kicking. And then it turned and mooned us. I was like, oh, that's so my baby. And she was like, oh. And then she kept moving the ultrasound to try and get like good pictures. And in the middle of that, an intern came in and she was like, I'm so-and-so, I work for the specialist. And I was like, okay, cool. And then she was looking and she's like, oh, can we get a this and that? And she was also, even though she's a doctor, she doesn't know how to use the ultrasound equipment like the tech does, because that's her main job. So the tech was kind of showing her how to use it and get good angles and how to like zoom in and stuff. So because of that, I got to see the baby for like 20 minutes. It was pretty cool. Usually it's like a 5-minute thing and they're done. I heard the heartbeat and it was like, oh, it's like my little baby's growing in there and it's baby shaped now. It's not just a blob. And I did get really good pictures this time compared to last time. So I will put those up. I scanned it already. And I will put those here or something, or here, whatever, for a second. And then after that, they did the vaginal one and they measured my cervix, because the stitch thing that I talked about last time, they couldn't remember the name. It's called a cerclage. And it's really not even a stitch. Like when the doctors had mentioned it the first time that I had my miscarriage, they mentioned it being an X stitch to keep my cervix closed. But when I met with the specialist after doing the ultrasound, she was like, well, here, let me explain. And she pulls out like a drawing of the cervix and everything. And she's like, this is how we actually do it. And I'll kind of, I'll pretend this is your cervix. This is like these two pieces, and it's open up here and it kind of comes down and it closes. And it looks like a zip tie, and they put it around the bottom. And it's not plastic, it's made out of thread that doesn't dissolve. But it just closes the bottom so that your cervix can't open. And she asked me about the first miscarriage, and I told her how it happened. And then she asked about the other ones, and she was like, okay, the first one, I'll get to that in a second. The second two were just like first trimester. I just kind of had my period. There was blood involved, and it wasn't like my water broke. The first one though, I was at 20 weeks and there was no blood. And I went to go to the bathroom and I could feel something trying to come out the wrong hole. And it was like, I didn't realize that was my water about to break, because I had never had a baby before. I just was like, that doesn't feel right. And it didn't hurt. So I wasn't really concerned, and I just kept trying to pee. And then when I was done, it was just like, it went poof, and my water just came out. And she said that sounded like a classic case of either my cervix opened or the walls were too weak. My cervix just was like, all right, we'll open. And she was like, I do recommend doing the cerclage, because this type of thing, when it happens once, it will continue to happen. So like if we do want to have another kid, I'm going to have it done again. But she's the first doctor to actually ask about the first miscarriage in detail. And then to also say, I think it's because your cervix opened and this is going to prevent that. So that it does make sense about what happened and everything. And all the other doctors were like, we don't know. And they were testing fluids and things after the fact. They didn't ask me what happened right around the time my water actually broke. So it's like, okay, I actually feel so much better and like calm. And it's like, okay, this baby's going to stick. Because I go in on Tuesday and they're going to do the cerclage, and I'm early enough that the cervix is still strong, so the cerclage will hold. Okay, so I had a baby brain moment for a second. I totally lost my train of thought. So that was the first doctor to really make me feel like, okay, she knows the cause and she's giving me some kind of path to take that will prevent that from happening again. So I'm not worried about what's going to happen. Now I'm like, okay, the baby's healthy. We had the egg tested, or the embryo or whatever, beforehand. So once I get the cerclage, everything else should go correct. The gestational diabetes is the other thing where it's like, that's kind of the bad that happened. And I have to, I really have to like watch what I'm eating, which I know I'm kind of fat, but my husband and I were really good about eating healthy. And like, we rarely were eating bad things. Like every once in a while it's like, oh, let's buy pie or a cake or something, but it wasn't like every day or once a week. It was kind of like, oh, I feel like something sweet today. So my blood sugar on a regular basis, like even though I'm overweight, I don't have diabetes, and I wasn't in the pre-diabetic when I've been tested in the past, so I wasn't worried about it. But you know, just gestational diabetes happens. I keep wanting to call it digestional diabetes, and I'm like, that's not right. I don't know why my brain keeps saying that. It's like, it's gestational, not digestional. Because that doesn't even make sense. I know, it's crazy. So, recently I talked to one of my friends. She's like, I had that with one of my pregnancies, and then the next one I didn't have it. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, because they were telling me that it's most likely that you're going to get it again if you do get pregnant again. I'm like, oh. And then another possibility is in the future, it could cause me to get type 2 diabetes. And I'm just like, really? I pull my shirt. I haven't had any like high readings where I'm like, oh my God, you know, what did I eat? Because they gave me this list, and I got this like hybrid binder folder thing because I didn't want an actual binder, but I didn't want a folder either. I needed something like this, and I was like, ooh. So this the cover actually has this kind of accordion thing where you can put different papers and stuff in here, and there's kind of these little tab things that come out where you can separate stuff. So I've been putting all the letters that I get from the doctor and the insurance saying that my specialty visits are covered. I just throw them in there. And then this first one, I write down my blood sugar counts here, and I have very terrible handwriting, and then sometimes the pen doesn't work, so I'm like scratching. But it's like got a couple pages, and it tucks in here really nicely too, so it doesn't fall out. But it's like this little thing, you know, it's kind of cool. And then I also printed out the medications that I'm taking, because every time I go, they ask me, and I'm like, for some reason, I cannot remember folic acid. I'm like, what's that other thing you're supposed to take when you're pregnant? And it's not a multivitamin, like a prenatal vitamin. They're like, folic acid. I'm like, yes. So I wrote it down because I don't have any like prescription medications. It's just all like over-the-counter things. Like I'm taking the prenatal vitamin, folic acid, and then they told me to take aspirin, and I forgot why she said. And then I take a Claritin because I have allergies, and it helps. And then as needed, I use Pepcid chewables for heartburn, because oh my God, between the first trimester and about 2 weeks ago, I was getting it almost every night. And now it's like, I'll have it once in a while. The heartburn is getting better. So I'm happy with that. And then there's another one of those kind of folders. And then there's like more like a page protector thingy. And here I have my list of like a sample menu. And it says, you know, you can have 2 starches for breakfast, 1 serving of milk, 1 of meat, and 2 fats. And then it's like breakfast snack, lunch snack, dinner snack. I cannot eat this much. I'm trying, and I'm really, really trying, but it's just way too much food. And hopefully in like a few weeks, I'll be able to actually eat this much, because I know it's good and everything. My blood sugar is still really good, but it's just so much food. And then on the other side, this side has what the starch is, and like it says milk, but you know, they're milk products and things like that, and proteins, and it lists different things, which is really helpful, because you can't remember all of this stuff unless you're a dietitian, and then you forget things. And so it's really helpful, because I'm like, oh, you know, I have to have 10 servings of starches and 6 of protein, 6 to 8 of protein. So like I just look at it, and when I'm planning my meals, so I kind of had the same breakfast all week long. It was just kind of easier. I boiled eggs, and then I had English muffin. Sorry, I just sneezed and I'm about to sneeze again. So, you know, this list has been extremely helpful. And I know that I'm not eating enough, but I eat as much as I can until I'm full. And then, like, I've measured things out. I bought a little scale. It was like something I got on Amazon. It was under $20. And, you know, it says you have to have like 3 ounces of meat. So it's like, how much is that? You know, usually when you buy something, it's like a chicken breast is like 7 ounces. So you can kind of cut it in half, but it's like, is that too much or too little? So I got this little scale, and it does ounces and grams and pounds and all that stuff. Like, one of the things on the list is like, you know, for lunch having a turkey sandwich, and it's like you can have 3 ounces of turkey. The turkey is kind of in the chicken poultry family, so I'm like, okay, maybe that's why they said that. And then like my husband bought steak the other day, and he barbecued them, and then we chopped up the pieces into like 1 ounce pieces. And then the next night, because I had something else for dinner that night, the next night I made couscous, and then I had one of those bags of like frozen veggies that you throw in the microwave and it steams. So I got, it said like, you know, it says on there, you know, you can have a 1/3 cup of rice. I'm like, okay, rice and, so couscous isn't rice. It looks like it, but it's more of a pasta thing. I'm like, well, it says I can have a 1/3 cup of that. So I like measured that out after cooking it. And then I put some veggies on there, and then I got the meat and I sliced it up and I threw it in there, and I put a balsamic vinaigrette kind of thing. And that was one of my oily fat things for the day. And I gave it a little more flavor. And I actually had that 3 days in a row because we had so much couscous. I made 2 cups of it, but it was just so much. And my husband, even though he ate a lot of it, there was still just way too much left over. And so it was like, it was a really healthy meal, and it was very filling. So when I did my blood sugar later, I actually ended up having to have a snack because my blood sugar was really low, because there wasn't that, it didn't process into that much sugar, and my body just used it right away. So like 2 hours later, it was like, oh, you need a snack, because my blood sugar was like 73. I was like, ooh, that's really low. 70 is kind of the, you don't want to go under that. So it's like this little guide thing has been really helpful. And then they told me, you know, to bring my my diabetes thing with me all the time, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna put that in my purse. It's gonna get really messed up, or if I carry it and it rains, because it rains here a lot, I'm just like, it's gonna get messed up. So I wanted to get some kind of plasticky folder thing so I could put it in a purse. And I've just been carrying a bag around instead of a purse, because this is kind of big, and I just have a lot of info, so it's like kind of nice to have it all in one location. And then after that, in the back, this has this little binder paper area, which this is weird because you can't open it. So I'm like, I can't add more paper, and I couldn't rearrange things. So I was like, well, that's fine. But you know, if I have to take notes about something, I have a place to do that. And then it just closes with this little stringy thing. And then I threw a pen in the accordion area because I need a pen and I can never find it, and it's not going to clip on here very well. So this was really cool. I got it at Target. So it's like, that's my new life, is everything's in there. So that was, Wednesday. So on Wednesday, so that was Monday and Tuesday. So Wednesday, I had a really early video chat meeting thing with the dietitian, and she kind of went over, they had sent a video, and she went over that, but she had her own little PowerPoint, and it explained things. And then she emailed us like that form where you put down your blood sugar and stuff. She emailed us another copy, because that's going to fill up quickly. She went through, you know, like, corn is a vegetable, but it's a starchy vegetable. So that's something you have to put in the starch category. So if you're going to have corn and potatoes, that's 2 starches. You have to be careful. And she just described like 15 grams is 1 serving of starch. It was kind of nice to have the dietitian, because she did explain some stuff that the videos didn't, and none of the things online explain either. Like, they'll give you sample menus, but they don't explain the grams per starchy serving thing or anything like that. So then Thursday was kind of a down day. I didn't have any appointments or anything. I rested because the rest of the week had been hectic already. And then Friday I had to go in. They called me so early in the morning though. I had to go in for a corona test, but they called me at like 7:30 in the morning and woke me up, and I was just like, oh my God, what? And they're like, okay, so you're going in later today for your appointment. I'm like, yes. And they asked me a bunch of questions about anesthesia. And then I had 2 calls. They were really the same thing. I don't know why I had to talk to the same person, 2 different people about the same thing. They woke me up early. I'm like, all right, I'm up. So I had breakfast early, and I got my day going a lot earlier than normal. I went down for the corona test, and they also had to do some blood work. And oh my God, it took forever. My appointment was at 2:15, and I got there early this time. And I navigated my way to where I was supposed to go. It was much easier because it was all on the first floor. And I got there like 10 minutes early, like in the building. And then I waited for like half an hour before they called me back just to check me in. even though when I got there, I was like, yeah, so my name is so-and-so, and they checked me in, then I had to go back and talk to somebody for a few minutes who like went through paperwork and put stickers with my name on them. And then she walked me to the lab, which was right down the hall from her. And she gave the paperwork to the woman. And then I had to wait another 20 minutes for her to check me in. And it was like, oh my God, it just, I don't know. With all the Corona stuff, it's usually, the waits aren't this long. But I am at that point, I was in downtown Atlanta. So they're like extra busy. And I'm not complaining, like they're working as fast as they can. But it was just like, wow, this is a really long appointment. And so after like sitting there waiting, the nurse called me up and she checked me in, and then I waited again for another like 15 minutes. So the nurse took me back and she was like, okay, pull your mask down, but keep it on your mouth, but just below your nose. I'm like, okay. And I kind of feel bad for her because she's around people who probably have coronavirus. They were just doing it as like a standard test so I could have the procedure on Tuesday, because I want to make sure that I don't have it prior to going in, because it's not a surgery, but it is something where they're going to give me some anesthesia. They're not knocking me out, but it's like an epidural kind of anesthesia in my back. And then, you know, there's going to be other people in there, and they're going to be in close proximity to me for like 20 minutes. So they just want to make sure that I don't have it. But this nurse, she had the mask on and then she had the face guard. But I thought you should probably be in some kind of like hazmat type of suit, so if you are around somebody, you don't get sick. Because she, you know, she was protected, but it was like, oh my God, if you're really with somebody who has it and then you're like touching them and stuff, it was like, oh, I felt bad for her. But the test itself wasn't that bad. You know, it was the long, it looks like a Q-tip, but it's really flexible. So I just closed my eyes. I was like, okay, go ahead. And she started to stick it in, and it didn't hurt, but it tickled. She's like, you know, breathe. And I was like, you know, just breathing slowly and deeply, and that helped. And then she kind of touched the back of my throat and the nasally throat area, and then she pulled it out and she's like, okay, you're done. And I was like, that wasn't bad. My nose started to run, and then my right eye was just watering. I was like, oh, that's weird. And I wasn't like upset or crying or anything. It was just my eye was watering because she touched that side, and it just, I don't know how that's all connected, but it was just, she handed me a tissue. She's like, here. I was like, thank you. And then this side was fine. It was so funny. And then she left the room for a minute, and I blew my nose when she left because I was like, you know, I had covered up again, but I was like, oh, it's kind of runny. And she's like, okay, you know, go back in the waiting room and they'll call you to do the blood work. And I was like, all right. I thought they were going to do it all at once. So I sat there for another like 20 minutes, and then the other nurse came out and got me, and she took my blood. And then it was like, oh, I'm finally done. But by then it was after 5 o'clock. So my husband had been waiting that entire time. I felt so bad. We got stuck in a little bit of traffic. It wasn't too bad, but it was like, this took way longer than I thought it was going to. It just, like, my phone was about to die because I was like playing games on it. I wasn't expecting to be there that long. But in the end, you know, everything turned out okay. They didn't call me with my results, but I'm assuming it's negative because I stay away from people. I haven't had contact with anybody who has been sick, and, you know, I don't feel sick. So, you know, if I had, then I'm sure they would have called me or something. But so Tuesday, I am looking forward to Tuesday getting the Cerclage, because then, you know, it's not like 100% guaranteed nothing bad will happen, but it's like kind of a routine thing that they do often. And so it's like, okay, I feel better and calm. It's like, okay, that's going to make everything flow better, and I shouldn't have any more issues. And, you know, the baby's growing well. It measured at the ultrasound, it measured the right size and everything for how many weeks I was, and I don't even remember how many weeks I am now. I have to look at my thing. I am 15 weeks. I will be 16 on Friday. So that was kind of week 14 going to 15. So Friday's the day that I go up to the next week. And so now I'm on week 15. So I will make another video next week and let you guys know how the Cerclage went. And I mean, she's a specialist and she's been doing it for a long time, and it's kind of a routine thing for her. So I don't expect any complications or anything like that. And it's only a 20-minute procedure, so it shouldn't be Oop, I hit the table. Nothing should really happen that's crazy or anything like that, and everything should go smoothly. So I don't think I'm gonna have anything crazy to like talk about, but I'll let you guys know how it went, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.